Good morning, we're all present here. And today, our topic is National Council for Transgender Person. And it's presented by Lindsay Princess, Lizia Menora, Monisha O, and Nisha S. Before entering into this topic, I'll just give an intro about the topic National Council for Transgender Person. It is the council that specially gives for the transgender person, and the National Council for Transgender Person is the statutory body of the Government of India, which is NCTP. It is generally concerned with advising the government on all policy matters affecting transgender and intersex persons, as well as people with diverse GIESC, which means gender, identity, expression, and sex characteristics identities. So, the National Council for Transgender Person was established in the year 2020 under the provision of Transgender Person. The Protection of Rights Act was 2019. Features of Transgender Person Act 2019. So, we'll see about the definition of a transgender person. So the Act defines a transgender person as one whose gender does not match the gender assigned at birth. Actually, in birth, we assign that it is a male or female while seeing the organ of the body, and this gender does not match the gender assigned at birth. That is called the transgender, as we know, right? So it defines a transgender person as someone whose gender does not match the gender assigned at birth. It includes trans men and trans women person with intersex variations, gender cues, and person with socio-cultural identities such as Kina and Hijra. So this is what as definition of a transgender person. And now the certificate of identity. So what's a certificate of identity? The Act states that the transgender person shall have the right to self-perceived gender identity. So a certificate of identity can be obtained at the district magistrate office, and a revised certificate is to be obtained if sex is changed. The Act is provision that provides transgender the right of residence with parents and immediate family members. So, and the prohibition against discrimination. The Act prohibits discrimination against a transgender person in various sectors such as education, employment, and healthcare. So, prohibition against discrimination in these places like education, employment, and healthcare. So, there is no discrimination. So, this is what as the Act prohibits discrimination says about where all the places in various sectors like that education, employment, and healthcare in overall, right? So after the punishment, so after that discrimination, the punishment should occur. It states that the offense against transgender person will attract imprisonment between 6 months and 2 years in addition to fine. So there was as a punishment, and so these are the certificate of identity, prohibition against discrimination, and the punishment that we have seen in this.
Now we are going to discuss about background and how to build the National Council of a Transgender Person. In 2013, the government set up the committee to study the problem of a transgender and recommend the solutions to the people. In 2014, the Supreme Court of India declared the transgender people to be a third gender. It's offered the fundamental rights and granted under the Constitution of India. Them the rights to self-identifications of their gender as a male, female or transgender. In 2014, the rights of a transgender person was introduced in Rajya Sabha. So, in Rajya Sabha took at the providing the special scheme for them. For example, health, education, sectors, skill development and employment opportunities and protection from the abuse and torture. So that's they are taking the private member bill. So in 2016, the government introduced its the own bill of the Lok Sabha. In 2019, the parliament passed the transgender person to protections of the act. So 2020, the government established the National Council of Transgender Persons. So finally, he did happen in
So finally, it happened in 2020.
and why they are established and promote the National Council for the Transgender. What is the main purpose of a national counseling for the transgender? So increasing the awareness in between the society and the sense of respect and equal opportunities and accept for the transgender committee, and this is a welcome step. However, it's up to affecting functions of a counseling and whether it's will able to identify the issues faced by the transgender committee and accordingly advise the government. So apart from the policy and regulation, there is also a need for the inclusive approach and sustaining illegal and law enforcement system in the particular towards is the issues of a transgender committee. So that's why we have to they include the National Council for the Transgender Person.
Thank you.